This week on The Travel Show, we're taking a look back at some of our favourite recent adventures. In Mexico, we're hands-on with a salamander.
Oh my god, it's so smooth, it's so lovely.
Face-to-face with Italy's stolen art.
Wow, it's beautiful.
And up to my neck in it.
It's really cool.
In rural Estonia. Hello and welcome to Switzerland. I'm in the town of Château d'Air. It's known for its Gruyere cheese, which is delicious, and the International Balloon Festival held in the valley behind me every winter. But let's start somewhere a little warmer. Mexico City's ancient canal network was first built by the Aztecs. It stretches 180 kilometres. And these days, the whole district of Xochimilco is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, but one that could do with a bit of a clean-up. We sent Eva Zu Beck there to find out why.
Check out all these amazing boats. They're so colourful. These are called trajineras. I was honestly expecting to go on a quiet little boat ride, but this place is a real fiesta. Okay, we're stuck in a traffic jam of like 10 different boats. Tourist boats, shop boats. You know, the moment you leave behind the super busy embarcaderos of Xochimilco, it feels like you enter a completely different world. There's so much wildlife here, so much greenery, it's just so serene.
But even out here in the more remote areas of the wetlands, the pollution is endangering one of Mexico's most iconic animals. This strange-looking but much-loved axolotl.
What's so special about these little creatures?
Sus pares de branquias son hermosos, puede respirar por las branquias, tienen la capacidad de mimetizarse, de tomar la coloración de su hábitat. Son oscuros porque están en su hábitat en los canales, en los zapantes y hay sedimento. Eso es maravilloso, eso sumado a la capacidad de regeneración que tienen de extremidades, órganos e incluido el cerebro.
I can't believe this is happening. I'm about to hold an ajolote. Oh my god, it's so smooth, it's so lovely. It's like holding a baby.
The axolotl is not only endemic to Mexico, its population is limited to these wetlands, and the worsening pollution is threatening its very survival.
Okay, put him back. Okay, go.
Thankfully, the conservation project Armando runs here has been a great success, and as a result, axolotl numbers are now increasing across the wetlands.
De que para no perder esta magnífica especie, tenemos que trabajar en equipo, todos los que habitamos de alguna manera los canales Xochimilco, que vivimos y estamos aquí. Y cómo es recuperando su hábitat.
Armando's work is brilliant, but to fully restore the area to its former glory, ultimately, the pollution needs to be tackled.
Eva Zu Beck there in Mexico City. And next up, we're back in Europe, in the Italian capital of Rome. And if you've ever visited the city, you'll know that seemingly around every corner, there's a priceless work of art right there on public display. That might be a total delight for tourists and art lovers, but it also makes them vulnerable to theft, as Ade recently found out.
There are just over 100 known works by the artist Caravaggio. This is one that tourists can come and see, and you can understand why he's able to make a name for himself. This one's just so explicit. But what's really cool is that you can also see his masterpieces in everyday spaces all around Italy, like in churches, for example. But sadly, making artworks more readily accessible also leaves them vulnerable to theft. And one of the most famous examples in history is the disappearance of a massive Caravaggio from a Sicilian church. It's estimated that around $6 billion worth of plundered art is being traded on the global black market every year. The Carabinieri's Cultural Protection Heritage Squad have retrieved more than 4.5 million stolen artifacts and relics over the past 50 years. I've come to their HQ because I've been given special access to the vaults where they keep all the stolen treasures that they've managed to recover.
È un luogo meraviglioso, è un museo vivo.
Could you take me on a tour? I'd love to see more.
Certamente.
It feels a bit like an Aladdin's cave in here, with lots of strange and wonderful things to look at. And the paintings, rows and rows of them. And what's the story behind this artwork? It looks incredible.
È stata rubata in Italia e recuperata all'estero. Uno dei metodi di cui siamo venuti a conoscenza è per esempio il sezionare un'opera d'arte per poter commercializzarla più facilmente.
So they'll just take a little section of the artwork
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
make money from that.
Yeah.
But there are some success stories. I'm heading an hour north of Rome to Cerveteri and the town's museum. This 2,500-year-old pot, Euphronia Scrata, being its most famous artifact. Looted, trafficked, traded and found, it was eventually negotiated back. And who knows, maybe, just maybe, a certain Caravaggio painting will make its way back home too, one day.
Ade there on the case of Italy's stolen art. And let's hope that Caravaggio makes its way back to where it belongs very, very soon. But speaking of priceless finds, did you know that last year marked the centenary of one of the world's most famous discoveries? In 1922, King Tutankhamun's burial chamber was uncovered under the dust and sand of the Egyptian desert outside Luxor. It caused a sensation, and to this day, his burial mask is one of the most instantly recognisable symbols of ancient Egypt. Credit for this find is usually given to British archaeologist Howard Carter, but we sent Rajan to discover how 100 years on, the Egyptian side of the story is finally being heard.
The Abdul Rasul family run a cafe these days, but generations of them have farmed along the banks of the Nile, and as such have an intimate knowledge of what lies on and underneath the dust and sand.
So this is the 12-year-old boy that they said really discovered the tomb.
Nubi claims it was actually his father who first found the tomb of Tutankhamun. Ahmed Abdul Rasul was just a child at the time.
فكان ياخدوا والده وجده معاه. ففي اليوم ده طبعا لما كان ركب الحمار والحمار وقع فوق السلالم بتاع اول السلمه، فظهرت حاجه كده حجر، فراح نادى على كارتر والدي وقتها قال له تعالى في حاجه لقيتها. هوار كارتر لما جاء ما كانش مصدق، بص كده على قال له كحت عرفها السلالم بتاعت توت عنخ آمون، سماها يوم الأيام. بعد ما هوار كارتر كان ماشي وفقد الأمل، ما فيش شغل تاني، فالوالد هو السبب في قصة اكتشاف المقبرة.
Now, Egyptian perspectives like these are being acknowledged more widely, and one of the ways that's happening is by huge landmark public projects.
like the brand new Grand Egyptian Museum, due to open in 2023, and it'll be the largest archaeological museum complex in the world. And this too, the Avenue of the Sphinx, buried under sand for hundreds of years, and last year opened to the public for the first time. It runs from Luxor Temple to here, the magnificent complex of Karnak.
This was an exclusive area. It's only for the priests, only for the members of the royal court, only for the selected few. The ordinary people, just like ourselves, would have never had any glimpse of the inside of the temple.
Eva is an amazing storyteller, but ask her about the story of the Abdul Rasuls and who really discovered the tomb, and she believes there's a wider issue.
I think to focus on this is to miss the point. The whole point is the contribution that the whole Abdul Rasul family and the many Egyptian families who were involved in the archaeological excavations, without whom Howard and many of the foreign excavators would have not managed to make any of these discoveries altogether.
And this is kind of connected to how Egyptians are portrayed in this world of archaeology.
We're not even portrayed, we're totally written out. We're written out from the whole process of knowledge production. Whenever it's an Egyptian, he would have stumbled on a step, as you said, or he'd been stumbling, riding a donkey, etc. It could never be out of real knowledge. It has to be a mistake.
While the Egyptians clearly played a huge part in the discovery, the persistence of Howard Carter and the money of his wealthy aristocratic backer were also vitally important to the success. Now the desire is for both parts of that story to be recognised. For the rest of his life, Ahmed Abdel Rasul told visitors to Luxor about his adventures with Howard Carter, an account, like so many others, rarely told in the West.
Fascinating stuff there from Rajan, exploring Luxor, ancient Egypt's historical capital. Well, do stick with us, because still to come.
So we're about to go out on stage, just check my levels, and 11.7.
Managing diabetes when parties are part of your job.
It looks like someone's just spilled some berries on the ground.
And the hidden treasures of Estonia's boggy paradise.
They're very sour.
Not that sour.
We've come now to Interlaken, a beautiful town that draws adventure sports enthusiasts from across the world. But not everyone wants adrenaline on their holidays. Some are just after music and dancing and fun, and that's what we're heading to do next.
The Spanish party island of Ibiza hosts countless big-name DJs every summer. For many, it's the perfect place to gig with a merry and receptive crowd. But when BBC One Extra DJ Reece Parkinson was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, he wondered how he'd manage it on his travels. So we went with him to find out.
I'm heading to the location of my gig, the Ibiza Rocks Hotel. But after a good old catch-up the night before and having more alcohol than normal, I'm feeling a little worse for wear. After the lack of sleep, I'm riding on adrenaline. This 45-minute DJ set sees me supporting some of the biggest names in the European dance music scene. So I have to be on top of my game. So we're about to go out on stage. We literally got 5 minutes until we start the set. Just check my levels, and 11.7, which is pretty high, but the risk is if you inject yourself now, there's a high chance it could go too low during the set, and then I'll have to down all of that juice. Isn't the end of the world, I'm not going to die, but yeah, just from like a perspective of always being in control of it, this is one of those moments that it's kind of got control of me, you know.
My name is Reece Parkinson, BBC Radio 1 Extra.
The gig begins and I am loving it. But my levels are slowly beginning to climb. Mate, done. 13.1, all right, it's climbing. I am gonna inject myself now. So let me give myself, let's say 3. 3 it, I do an extra one for luck.
Over 9 million people have type 1 diabetes globally. I'm still learning to live and travel with this condition. But what this trip has taught me is, wherever I go in the world, type 1 will always be there with me. It's a case of knowing not everything will be perfect all of the time. But if I treat myself with kindness, then there's nothing that will stop me seeing or doing anywhere I decide to visit.
All the very best to Reece there as he stays on top of his diabetes. Now to one of my recent personal highlights, and trust me on this, we're off to the bogs of Estonia.
Believe it or not, this swampy environment is the perfect adventure playground, offering hiking, foraging, skating and even swimming.
Around 7% of Estonia is made up of this bogland. And it's fair to say, in the past, not everyone was a huge fan. In fact, people would regard a landscape like this with horror because folklore said that this is exactly the kind of place where you might be waylaid by evil spirits.
Times have changed though, and it's now becoming apparent just how useful these bogs are. It's so effective at storing carbon that in recent years the Estonian government has started re-bogging vast areas of land in an effort to help tackle climate change.
Hello, I'm Krista. It's good to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
It looks like mud, but is this peat?
Yeah, that is peat. Actually, it's if you look, it's almost decayed, but not totally decomposed
you can still
plant
see the
material.
Fibers. Why is it important to restore these peatlands?
It is important for carbon emissions. We want to stop carbon emissions here. We want that this peatland would store carbon, not emitting it.
But people here are also finding out what a stunning playground this environment is.
Glad to meet you.
Good to meet you too. I've got my gumboots ready.
Very good.
Ready to hit the bogs?
Let's go.
Eva is a guide who lives, works and plays here in Sumar National Park. He floats through the bogs in his canoe, skates and sledges on them in the winter, and stomps through them in these.
Any tips? It's not that difficult actually. You just walk, and one important thing when you want to turn back, you always come with U-turn. You don't step like this because of this, but U-turn, it works well.
Okay, these are one-way bog shoes.
Yes, only forward.
Okay.
Bog shoes are a bit like snowshoes, and our crew soon discovers the importance of wearing them.
Yeah, my body is okay too. There's a lot, yeah, there's a lot.
Jordan has just emptied about 1 litre of water out of his boot, and that is why you wear bog shoes. So yeah, what's all this made up of? Because it feels like we're walking on a big sponge.
Yeah, it's mostly made of the moss, more specifically sphagnum moss. So this is the plant here.
Ah, okay.
And if you take some of it, yeah, like, so you can
It's really like a sponge, isn't it?
So it is
so it's like a
growing, so it is rotting down there, or becoming peat. But in the top it is growing. It's green, yeah, like
yes. Well, as you can see, it's living. It's sort of a
yeah, and it is full of water, so it doesn't look like water, but if you squeeze it, you see.
Oh wow! Look at that.
It may look like a barren landscape, but there's plenty here to forage.
It looks like someone's just spilled some berries on the ground.
Do you want to taste?
I do. I've had cranberry juice before, but I've never had a cranberry.
Yeah, they are sour.
Are they sweet? Oh. They're very sour.
Not that sour.
And there's just one final chili treat that Eva's keen to show me.
All right. Are you sure about this? Is this a good idea? Oh God! I can already feel how cold it is.
Actually, quite cold. This water makes you feel like something soft and makes you like a little bit younger.
I mean, it'd want to because it's really cold. Oh God! Ooh. Oh. It's really cold. Oh, it's really, really cold. I can see how, after a bit of working up a sweat, bog shoeing, this would be a nice sort of shock to the system. So how far does this go down?
A few meters. So if you, there is no bottom, yeah.
So I think the verdict for the bog swimming is absolutely freezing cold. Wow, but I mean, what a setting. And if you want a tip from me, go when it's warm. It took a real stiff drink to warm me up after that one. Okay, that's it for the programme this week. We're coming up next time.
I'm in another chilly part of the world, the Shetland Islands, to take in the famous Viking festival up Heliar. And to find out why, after 200 years, it's only now that women are welcome to take part.
This incredible experience. And it does make you kind of feel like maybe this is something the Vikings would have done all those years ago. In the meantime, you can find lots of our recent adventures on BBC iPlayer, and you can check out our social media to find lots of great travel content from around the BBC. That's it for now.